I did shoe with a review of the Under Armour Curry Series 7. That's what they're calling it, making it more confusing. Does Curry have 7 titles, 7 MVPs? I don't know what the 7 stands for, but that's what they're going with. Design-wise, people say this looks like a why not Russell Westbrook design, but if you look carefully, there's I think design-wise it's pretty okay. They've got some lightning splashing kind of motifs, just like something that reminds you of the Splash Brothers, one of the Splash Brothers Curry. For size 9.5, it weighs about 300, barely 300 grams, and this is probably the lightest basketball shoe possibly ever. I think going back to the Crazy Lights from Adidas, even then I think was about this weight or slightly heavier than this. So it looks super bulky, but it's really lightweight. Let's go with the pros. First of all, if you see the word flow, you run, because you know this flow foam, the outsole is just eraser. They're just gonna get rubbed off and immediately disappear. But this, as you can tell, there's a different density foam for the midsole, and the flow is just for the outsole. And this flow is much harder, much more dense compared to the previous flows. This is for outsole, maybe provides some degree of cushioning, but this is about durability. So definitely slightly softer than conventional rubber outsole, but it is much harder than conventional flow foam. And the pattern also, they've changed it significantly. They're more aggressive and deeper than the previous flow model. So among all the Curry models with the flow outsole pattern, this is the best. Traction that's not too dust sensitive and much more durable. So good for them. For the midsole, they don't really clearly mention what it is. Some would say supercritical foam or whatnot, but it does feel like comparable to those nitrogen infused foam that you see on a lot of very successful Chinese model shoes out there. This is okay, but it's pretty thin. It looks pretty thick on the outside, but here it's pretty low to the ground. So compared to previous Curry models, this definitely is one of the better cushionings. I would say they're definitely better than some of the previous models that boasted a little bit of a superior cushioning, like the Curry 6 or the 7, or even definitely the 4s, definitely more cushioned than 4s. Compared to the flow, slightly better, but not dramatically. You can tell that this is gonna be something that you can really feel once you put it on, and the shock absorption is there. Even on the forefoot, even if it's low to the ground, you can feel there's substantial cushioning compared to previous Curry models. So definitely better, but nothing crazy. I mean, if you compare this to a lot of the successful Chinese brands out there, or definitely slightly better than shoes like just Cushlon, or just foam cushion Nike shoes like the A1 or the Book 1. Yeah, definitely slightly better, but not significantly. This is not something to brag about, especially if the shoe costs more than $200. The price point is the most ridiculous thing. You don't freaking deserve that price tag. The upper is very soft, and at the same time, it's fused in certain areas to provide that good lockdown. Very breathable, as you can see. Fit, it's very narrow. If you have a very narrow foot and you like a tight fit, you can go true size. But for most people, you'll have to go at least half a size up, and you'll still feel this side pinching. Even with the shoe, when you put it on, you can feel your pinky kind of sneaking out of the insole. That's how narrow it is. And also the insole, it's not as good as the previous Under Armour typical material. This is more like an ortholite, but Under Armour used to give really good insoles. For instance, the 4s or some of the previous models, they give something that felt more like a cross between a 20% EVA and 80% PU. So I wish they had that. But even with this insole, the cushioning is definitely decent. The tongue is a little bit thin, so if you lace them up tight, you might feel some circulatory issues, but it's not something major compared to crap like the LeBron 18 tongue, which is sort of horrible. Overall, there's padding is nice, nothing pinches, and this little elf shoe or the elf loops, it's good for sliding and taking off the shoe. But the heel cup, as you can tell, is just foam around it. There's not prominent heel clutching there, so you might feel some heel slippage, but nothing drastic because the upper lace lockdown is pretty decent. The outrigger is an issue. It looks like it's got all these aggressive points that's going to provide that security, but actually, because this is flow, not as hard as rubber, but softer than most rubber, so you can tell this is not going to provide decent breakage. Well, you might feel some slowing down, but ultimately it'll tilt. So that's something you want to keep in mind and test yourself. Honestly, I don't feel like this is a decent outrigger for a curry shoe. I think this is the most dangerous side-to-side instability shoe in terms of lack of an outrigger compared to most curry shoes that we've had in the past. Does not compute if you tell me this is over $200. At least that's how they're selling it here in Korea. I would not go for that. The cushioning, definitely the better one among the curry series, but there are so many better options out there. It feels like an slightly inferior Adidas cushioning. Definitely superior than the previous curry models. But yeah, outsole durability improvement, definitely I'll give Under Armour props for that. Great outrigger improvement. Cushioning wise, certainly an improvement, but just slightly, not incredible. Low to the ground, but this instability, that's one thing I need. Biggest issue, instability, lack of outrigger, and the price point.